What if everything you were taught about twin flames was incomplete? Not wrong, but unfinished. Most people come into the twin flame journey carrying a very specific image in their minds. An image shaped by romance movies, spiritual teachings taken out of context, and the deep human longing to be chosen. The image looks something like this. Two souls meet. They recognize each other instantly. They go through challenges, separations, lessons. And in the end they reunite, physically, romantically, permanently. But what if that ending was never the real point? What if the deepest purpose of a twin flame connection is not to stay, but to awaken? This is where many people feel confused, even betrayed. Because the twin flame connection does not behave like normal love. It doesn't soothe you. It doesn't stabilize you. It doesn't follow a predictable emotional rhythm. Instead, it destabilizes everything you thought love was supposed to be. And that's not an accident. Twin flames do not enter your life to confirm your worth. They enter your life to expose where you still believe love must be earned, negotiated, or secured. That is why the connection often feels overwhelming, consuming, and impossible to control. You don't just miss them. You don't just want them. You feel undone by them. And this is where the first illusion quietly takes hold. You begin to believe that the intensity means permanence, that the depth means destiny in the traditional sense, that something this powerful must end in togetherness. But intensity is not a promise. It is a catalyst. Twin flames do not mirror your desires. They mirror your attachment. They reflect every place where love inside you is still conditional. Every hidden rule, every unconscious contract you carry about what love should give you in return. And this is why the beginning of the twin flame journey feels so intoxicating. Because for the first time you feel seen without effort. You feel recognized without explanation. You feel chosen without needing to perform. But here is the part most people are not prepared for. That feeling was never meant to come from them. It was meant to wake you up to the part of you that remembers what love feels like before fear entered the picture. This is why the connection often pulls away just when you begin to lean in. Not because they stopped loving you. Not because you failed. But because the relationship is no longer meant to function as a source. It is meant to become a mirror. And mirrors are not meant to be held onto. They are meant to be looked into. This is the moment where many people start asking the wrong question. They ask, how do I make them come back? How do I heal faster so we can be together? What lesson do I still need to learn for union to happen? But the deeper question is far more uncomfortable. What if union was never about them at all? What if union is not an external event, but an internal state? This idea is deeply threatening to the ego, because the ego wants proof. It wants outcomes. It wants guarantees. The ego wants love to be visible, measurable, and secured through form. But twin flame love does not operate on ego logic. It operates on truth. And truth does not bargain. This is why twin flame connections often dismantle romantic expectations rather than fulfill them. They strip love down to its raw essence. No chasing. No convincing. No proving. Just presence or absence. And absence is not a punishment. It is a teacher. Absence asks, can you still love when you are not chosen? Can you still open your heart when nothing is promised? Can you still remain soft when love no longer rewards you with certainty? This is where unconditional love begins to reveal itself. Not as an ideal, not as a spiritual concept, but as a lived experience. Unconditional love is not learned when things go well. It is learned when love no longer gives you what you want, when there is no reward, no reassurance, no outcome to cling to. And this is why twin flames often leave, because their presence would keep love conditional. As long as they stay, love can still be tied to proximity, commitment, and validation. But when they go, love has nowhere to hide. You are left alone with a terrifying question. Can I love without needing anything back? Not because I am weak, not because I am self-sacrificing, but because love itself is no longer a transaction. This is the point where many people feel they have failed the twin flame journey. They think, if we are not together, I must have done something wrong. If they left, I must not be healed enough. If union hasn't happened, the story isn't complete. But the truth is more subtle. Union does not begin when two bodies come together. Union begins when love inside you no longer depends on external confirmation. When love stops asking, "Will you stay? Will you choose me? Will you love me back?" and starts asking instead, "Can I remain open, even when nothing is guaranteed?" This is why twin flame love feels both sacred and devastating. Because it does not exist to make you happy. It exists to make you free. Free from bargaining. Free from attachment disguised as devotion. Free from the belief that love must arrive in a specific form to be real. And this is the invitation hidden in the pain. Twin flames are not here to complete you. They are here to show you where you are already whole but afraid to trust it. They are here to dismantle conditional love so unconditional love can emerge. And this is where the journey truly begins. Not with union, not with reunion, but with a radical redefinition of what love actually is. So before we go any further, sit with this question, not to answer it but to feel it. What if the deepest love you will ever experience does not come from being together, but from learning how to love without holding on? In the next section, we will begin to dismantle the romantic illusion of union and uncover what union truly means on a soul level. Because once you understand that, everything about your twin flame journey will start to make sense. If you search for the word union in most twin flame discussions, you will notice something interesting. Union is almost always described as an event, a moment in time, a future destination, a final reward after suffering. It is framed as the point where everything finally makes sense, where pain is justified, separation is redeemed, and love takes a visible, tangible form. Two people together, two lives merged, two souls finally at rest. But this definition of union comes from the human mind, not from the soul. And this is where much of the suffering on the twin flame journey begins. Because when union is treated as an external outcome, love becomes conditional without us realizing it. Conditional on timing, conditional on behavior, conditional on healing progress, conditional on the other person choosing the same pace, the same awareness, the same path. Quietly, subtly, union becomes something to earn. And the moment love becomes something to earn, it stops being unconditional. This is the paradox at the heart of the twin flame experience. The very connection that is meant to teach unconditional love is often interpreted through the most conditional framework possible. If I heal enough, we will be together. If I let go correctly, they will come back. If I raise my vibration, union will happen. At first glance, these beliefs sound spiritual. But underneath them lies a familiar emotional contract. I will love if. And the soul does not operate on if. This is why the twin flame journey eventually forces a breakdown of the romantic idea of union. Not to punish you, not to take love away, but to remove the conditions that distort it. True union is not a relationship status. It is not a shared home, shared name, or shared future plan. True union is coherence. It is the moment when the parts of you that were divided by fear begin to reunite within yourself. Before twin flames ever meet externally, there is already a separation happening internally, a separation between who you are and who you believe you must be to be loved, a separation between your authentic self and the version of you that adapts, performs, or suppresses truth to maintain connection. This inner split is subtle but powerful, and twin flames arrive precisely to expose it. They bring such intensity, such recognition, such emotional charge that every hidden condition comes to the surface. Suddenly love feels everything. Fear of loss, fear of abandonment, fear of not being enough, fear of being too much. And because the connection feels sacred, those fears feel amplified. This is why people often confuse attachment with destiny in twin flame relationships. But attachment is not the opposite of love. It is love that has forgotten itself. Attachment forms when love believes it needs something outside itself to survive. Union dissolves attachment, not by forcing separation, but by revealing where love is still dependent. This is why union cannot be chased. The moment you chase union, you push it further away. Because you are seeking externally what must first stabilize internally. Union is not two people becoming one. It is one person becoming whole. Only then can connection exist without distortion. This is a difficult truth for many people to accept. Because it means that union is not something the other person can give you. It is something you allow within yourself. And allowance requires surrender, not effort. This is where the idea of learning lessons to achieve union often goes wrong. Lessons are not tasks to complete. They are realizations that dissolve resistance. You don't learn unconditional love by trying harder to love. You learn unconditional love when love no longer depends on outcomes. And this happens naturally when you stop bargaining with reality, when you stop asking love to look a certain way, when you stop measuring your worth through another person's availability. At this stage of the journey, many people feel a quiet grief, a grief not just for the relationship, but for the fantasy of union they were holding on to, the fantasy that love would save them, that togetherness would heal them, that being chosen would finally make everything feel safe. Letting go of this fantasy feels like loss, but it is actually liberation, because love no longer has to carry the weight of fixing you, and the other person no longer has to play a role they were never meant to fulfill. This is when a deeper kind of union begins to form, an inner union, a reunion between your heart and your truth, between your desire to love and your ability to remain grounded in yourself. You begin to notice subtle shifts. You still care, but you no longer cling. You still feel, but you no longer collapse. You still love, but you no longer negotiate your soul for closeness. This is not emotional numbness. It is emotional sovereignty. And this is what true union feels like. Not fireworks, not obsession, not intensity without rest, but a quiet, steady sense of alignment. You are no longer at war with reality. You are no longer waiting for love to begin, because love is no longer something that happens to you. It is something you are connected to regardless of circumstances. And here is the part that surprises most people. When inner union stabilizes, external dynamics often shift, but not always in the way the ego expects. Sometimes the twin flame returns. Sometimes they don't. But the difference is this. You no longer need the outcome to validate the truth of the love. And paradoxically, this is the only state where a healthy connection, if it happens, can exist. Because now love is free, not bound by fear, not fueled by lack, not driven by unconscious need. This is why union is not the end of the twin flame journey. It is the foundation. A foundation built not on romance but on wholeness. In the next section, we will explore why twin flames act as mirrors, and how this mirroring forces you to confront the deepest layers of attachment, projection, and self-abandonment. Because once you understand the mirror, you stop taking the connection personally, and start using it as the tool for awakening it was always meant to be. One of the most misunderstood aspects of the twin flame journey is pain. People often ask, if this is a divine connection, why does it hurt so much? Or even more painfully, if this is love, why does it feel like it's breaking me? The answer is not that something has gone wrong. The answer is that twin flames do not come to soothe your wounds. They come to reveal them. A twin flame is not a mirror that reflects your surface personality, the version of you that you show the world, the version that functions, adapts, and survives. They are a soul mirror. And a soul mirror reflects what you have learned to hide even from yourself. This is why the connection feels immediate, undeniable, and strangely familiar. You don't just feel attracted to them. You feel recognized by them, as if something ancient inside you has been seen without explanation. But here is the uncomfortable truth. What feels like recognition is not only love. It is resonance. And resonance does not discriminate between light and shadow. A twin flame resonates with your capacity to love, and with your deepest wounds around love. They activate the places where your heart closed long ago. Places formed by abandonment, rejection, emotional neglect, betrayal, or conditional affection. Even wounds you don't consciously remember, because the soul remembers. This is why twin flame connections bypass logic. You may tell yourself, this doesn't make sense. I barely know this person. I shouldn't feel this strongly. But the emotional response doesn't listen, because it is not responding to the present moment. It is responding to unresolved emotional memory. And this is where projection begins. First, the projection feels beautiful. You project hope onto them. Safety, meaning, completion. You believe they are the source of what you feel, that they are the reason your heart opened. But what actually happened is this. They touched the part of you that was already capable of love, but had been guarded by fear. And because the opening feels sudden, powerful, and overwhelming, the mind assigns ownership to the person. This must be them. But mirrors do not create what they reflect. They reveal it. And eventually, the mirror begins to show not only your longing, but your fear. Your fear of being left. Your fear of not being chosen. Your fear of losing connection. This is why twin flames often pull away right when emotional intensity peaks. Not because they want to hurt you, but because the mirror has done its job. Once the wounds are activated, they can no longer remain unconscious. And when wounds surface, they demand attention, not avoidance. This is the stage where many people feel destabilized. Your nervous system reacts as if something vital is being taken away. You may feel anxiety, panic, obsession, grief, or emotional withdrawal. You may replay conversations endlessly. You may search for meaning, signs, explanations. But beneath all of this is a deeper truth. You are not reacting to losing them. You are reacting to touching the original wound of separation within yourself. The wound that says, I am not safe without connection. I disappear when love leaves. I need someone else to remain whole. The twin flame does not create this wound. They expose it. And exposure is uncomfortable, because it removes the illusion that love outside of you can compensate for love withheld from yourself. This is why twin flame pain feels disproportionate. It's not just about the present situation. It is layered. You are feeling past heartbreaks, childhood emotional patterns, ancestral imprints, collective conditioning around love and worth, all activated at once. This is also why logic fails during this stage. Friends may say, just move on. You're idealizing them. It wasn't that deep. But it is deep. Not because of the relationship itself, but because of what it uncovered. And here is where many people turn against themselves. They say, I'm too attached. I'm weak. I should be over this by now. But attachment is not weakness. Attachment is the nervous system seeking safety. And the twin flame mirror has removed the illusion of safety that came from external validation. What you are experiencing is not obsession. It is deconditioning. The dismantling of the belief that love equals security. This is also where the runner-chaser dynamic often emerges. Not because one person loves more, but because one person feels the mirror more intensely. The chaser is usually the one who becomes conscious of the emotional wound first. The one who feels the opening and the loss at the same time. The runner is often overwhelmed by the mirror, by being seen too deeply, too quickly. So they pull away, not out of cruelty, but out of self-protection. Both roles are responses to the same mirror, just expressed differently, and neither role is wrong. They are simply different strategies for dealing with emotional exposure. The problem arises when the mirror is misunderstood. When pain is interpreted as proof of destiny instead of a call to healing. When suffering is romanticized instead of listened to. The mirror is not asking you to endure pain for love. It is asking you to turn toward the pain with awareness. To ask, what inside me is being activated? What am I afraid of losing? Where did I learn that love equals survival? This is the turning point. When the mirror shifts from punishment to guidance. You begin to see that the twin flame is not withholding love. They are withdrawing so you can reclaim it from within yourself. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop outsourcing your sense of self to another person. And slowly something changes. The intensity begins to soften. Not because love disappears, but because fear no longer fuels it. You start responding instead of reacting, feeling instead of chasing, observing instead of collapsing. This is the moment where the mirror becomes a teacher rather than a tormentor. You no longer ask, how do I get them back? You ask, what is this connection asking me to heal? And that question changes everything. Because once the lesson is integrated, the mirror no longer needs to hurt. In the next section, we will explore the first major lesson twin flames bring. Learning to let go, not as abandonment, but as a form of deep trust and energetic realignment. Because letting go is not the end of love. It is the moment love stops being driven by fear and starts becoming free. Letting go is one of the most misunderstood concepts on the twin flame journey. For many people, the phrase immediately triggers fear. Fear of loss. Fear of abandonment. Fear that letting go means the connection will disappear forever. Because in the human experience, letting go has often been associated with giving up, walking away, or accepting defeat. But in the twin flame journey, letting go means something very different. It does not mean you stop loving. It means you stop gripping. And there is a profound energetic difference between love that holds and love that grips. Gripping comes from fear. Holding comes from trust. Most people don't realize how much fear they carry into love. Fear disguised as effort. Fear disguised as loyalty. Fear disguised as fighting for the connection. But when fear leads, love becomes tense. It becomes vigilant. It becomes anxious. It becomes transactional. The twin flame connection exposes this tension quickly, because it does not respond to force. The more you try to control the outcome, the more the connection resists. The more you reach, the more distance appears. This is not punishment. It is alignment correcting itself. Twin flame energy is highly sensitive to intention. When love is offered freely, it flows. When love is used to secure an outcome, it collapses. This is why letting go is not optional on this path. It is inevitable. And it usually happens not because you choose it, but because exhaustion forces it. There comes a moment when chasing no longer works. When analyzing no longer brings relief. When waiting hurts more than releasing. And in that moment, something inside you breaks open. Not in despair, but in surrender. You realize that you cannot love someone into awakening. You cannot heal someone into choosing you. You cannot hold a connection together by willpower alone. And this realization is painful, because it confronts the deepest illusion of the ego, that love can be controlled. Letting go begins when you accept that love does not need your force to exist. It needs your openness. But openness without control feels terrifying to the wounded heart. Because wounded love learned early that connection is unstable, that love can be withdrawn, that closeness can vanish. So it learned to manage love instead of trust it. The twin flame journey dismantles this survival strategy, not gently but thoroughly. Because unconditional love cannot coexist with control. Control implies fear of loss. Unconditional love implies trust and presence, whether that presence is external or internal. This is why letting go often feels like stepping into the unknown. You are not just letting go of a person. You are letting go of timelines, expectations, imagined futures, emotional bargains, identity structures built around us. And this can feel like a death of who you thought you were in relation to them, a death of the story that sustained hope, a death of the belief that love must look a certain way to be real. Grief is a natural part of this stage, not because love is ending, but because illusion is dissolving. An illusion always resists being released. But here is the paradox most people don't expect. When you truly let go, something softens. Your nervous system begins to regulate. Your breath deepens. Your thoughts slow down. You may still feel love, but without panic. You may still miss them, but without collapse. This is how you know letting go is happening authentically. Not through indifference, but through inner stability. Letting go does not mean shutting your heart. It means removing fear from your heart's movements. And this changes everything energetically, because twin flame connections operate on resonance, not pursuit. The moment fear is removed, the dynamic shifts. Sometimes this results in reconnection. Sometimes it doesn't. But either way, you are no longer enslaved by the outcome. And this is freedom. This is also where many people misunderstand spiritual teachings about letting go. They think it means detachment. But detachment is not numbness. True letting go is secure attachment. It is the ability to love without needing to hold, to care without clinging, to remain present without controlling. This level of emotional maturity is rare. And it is exactly what twin flames are meant to cultivate. Letting go also requires radical honesty with yourself. You must ask, am I loving, or am I afraid? Am I open, or am I waiting? Am I trusting, or am I monitoring? Because many people believe they have let go, while still emotionally checking for signs, updates, confirmation. That is not letting go. That is delayed control. True letting go is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not need validation. It feels like standing firmly in your own energy, regardless of what happens next. And this is the moment when love becomes unconditional. Not because you decided it should be, but because conditions fell away naturally. You stop needing love to return in order to feel whole. You stop equating love with proximity. You stop measuring your worth through another person's response. And this is where inner union begins to stabilize. You are no longer split between hope and fear, between longing and resistance, between giving and waiting. You are simply present. Present with love, present with uncertainty, present with yourself. This is why letting go is not the end of the twin flame journey. It is the gateway, because only when you release the grip can you discover what remains when nothing is held, and what remains is love without fear. In the next section, we will explore the second major lesson of the twin flame path: learning to give without losing yourself, how to love generously while maintaining boundaries, integrity, and self-respect. Because unconditional love is not self-erasure. It is self-honoring love, expressed freely. One of the most dangerous misconceptions about unconditional love is the belief that it requires self-sacrifice. Many people arrive on the twin flame journey with a quiet, unexamined assumption: if I love deeply enough, patiently enough, selflessly enough, love will eventually be returned. This belief often doesn't feel like desperation, feels like devotion, feels spiritual, feels noble, but beneath it lies a subtle erasure of the self. And the twin flame connection exposes this more clearly than any other relationship. Because it amplifies both your capacity to love and your tendency to disappear in love. Unconditional love is not proven by how much you endure. It is revealed by how much you remain present with yourself while loving. This is where many people confuse giving with losing. They believe that to give freely, they must soften their boundaries. That to love without conditions, they must silence their needs. That to be spiritual, they must tolerate pain without protest. But unconditional love is not passive. It is conscious. And consciousness includes self-awareness, self-respect, and self-trust. The twin flame journey teaches this lesson through contrast. First, giving feels effortless. You give time, attention, emotional availability, understanding. You offer space when they pull away. You justify behavior that would not be acceptable in other relationships. You say, they're healing. They're not ready. They're triggered. And sometimes this understanding is genuine, but sometimes it becomes a way to avoid confronting your own boundaries. Because setting boundaries risks loss. And early wounds taught you that loss equals danger, so you keep giving, hoping love will stabilize, hoping patience will be rewarded. But love cannot grow in a space where one person disappears. Giving that costs you your selfhood is not unconditional love. It is self-abandonment dressed in spiritual language. And the soul will not allow this to continue indefinitely. This is why the twin flame dynamic eventually creates tension. Your body begins to react. You feel drained, anxious, unseen, unbalanced. Your intuition whispers, something is off. But the mind resists, because acknowledging the imbalance threatens the story you are holding onto. The story that love must hurt to be real. The story that suffering equals depth. The twin flame journey dismantles these stories, not by argument but by experience. You reach a point where giving no longer feels expansive, feels heavy, and heaviness is information. It signals that love is flowing in one direction only. This is where true unconditional love asks a radical question. Can I give without betraying myself? Because unconditional love does not mean unconditional access. It does not mean unlimited tolerance. It does not mean accepting behavior that erodes your dignity. Unconditional love is love without conditions on being, not love without boundaries in behavior. This distinction is critical. You can love someone deeply and still say, this does not work for me. I cannot meet you here. I will not abandon myself to maintain this connection. This is not punishment. It is integrity. And integrity is a form of love. The twin flame connection invites you to anchor your love in truth rather than hope. To give from fullness, not from fear. To express love because it is authentic, not because it might secure a future. This shift often feels terrifying, because for the first time you stop performing love. You stop overgiving. You stop compensating for another person's absence. You stop filling emotional gaps that are not yours to fill. And in that stopping, you may fear that love will disappear. But what disappears is not love. What disappears is imbalance. When giving becomes aligned, something subtle happens. You begin to feel yourself again. Your energy stabilizes. Your sense of worth no longer fluctuates with their availability. You no longer need to explain or justify your love. You simply offer it, clearly, honestly, and without self-erasure. This is where many people experience a profound identity shift. They realize that they were not loving unconditionally before. They were loving conditionally, with the condition being self-neglect. And self-neglect is not spiritual. It is survival. Often rooted in early experiences where love required adaptation, where being too much risked rejection, where having needs risked abandonment. The twin flame mirror reveals these patterns mercilessly, but compassionately, because once you see them, you can no longer unsee them. And awareness changes behavior naturally. You begin to ask different questions. Not, how can I give more? But, how can I give without losing myself? Not, how can I be enough for them? But, how can I remain true to myself while loving? This is where boundaries emerge. Not as walls but as clarity. Boundaries are not about keeping love out. They are about keeping truth in. And love that honors truth is sustainable. This is also where many people fear they are becoming selfish. But selfishness is taking without regard for others. Self-honoring is giving without erasing yourself. They are not the same. Unconditional love does not demand selflessness. It invites wholeness. When you are whole, your giving is clean. It does not carry expectation. It does not seek repayment. It does not quietly hope for transformation in return. It is simply an expression of who you are. And paradoxically, this is the only kind of giving that does not drain you, because it is not fueled by lack. It is fueled by alignment. This lesson is essential for inner union, because union cannot occur in a divided self. If one part of you loves while another part resents, fears, or suppresses truth, you remain fragmented. Learning to give without losing yourself is the reunification of love and self-respect. And when that happens, something remarkable occurs. You stop needing love to prove anything. You stop measuring depth by pain. You stop equating intensity with truth. Love becomes calm, not dull but grounded, and grounded love can endure. In the next section, we will explore the third major lesson of the twin flame journey: learning acceptance. Accepting what is without resignation, and without needing reality to change in order to remain open. Because acceptance is not the end of desire. It is the end of resistance. And where resistance ends, peace begins. Acceptance is often misunderstood as giving up, as if accepting reality means surrendering desire, as if accepting what is means abandoning hope, as if acceptance is the quiet permission for disappointment to settle in. But acceptance on the twin flame journey is not passive. It is not numbness. It is not defeat. And it is not the absence of longing. Acceptance is clarity without resistance. And clarity is powerful. Most suffering in the twin flame journey does not come from love itself. It comes from the war between love and reality, from wanting what is to be different, from believing that love cannot survive unless circumstances change. Acceptance ends this war, not by changing reality but by changing your relationship to it. This is why acceptance feels so threatening at first. Because the ego interprets acceptance as finality. If I accept that they are not here, they will never return. If I accept the distance, love will disappear. If I stop wanting change, nothing will ever change. But acceptance is not the opposite of movement. It is the end of resistance. And resistance is what drains your energy. Resistance keeps you emotionally stuck in the same moment, replaying, analyzing, hoping, fearing. Acceptance releases you from that loop. And in that release, something unexpected happens. You begin to feel grounded again. Not because you got what you wanted, but because you stopped fighting what is. The twin flame journey demands acceptance because it unfolds beyond your control. You cannot schedule awakening. You cannot force readiness. You cannot accelerate another soul's path. And trying to do so creates friction. Acceptance begins when you see clearly what is happening, without distortion. Not through denial. Not through spiritual bypassing. Not through forced positivity. But through honest recognition. They are where they are. I am where I am. This is what exists right now. This honesty is sobering because it removes fantasy, and fantasy is often what we cling to when reality hurts. Fantasy says, "They will change if I wait. This separation is temporary if I do everything right. This pain has a guaranteed reward." Acceptance says, "This is what is happening now, and I choose to remain open anyway." This choice is not weakness. It is emotional maturity, because it means you are no longer dependent on potential futures to justify present love. You are no longer postponing peace. You are allowing yourself to be present with what is without collapsing. This is the moment where love becomes spacious, no longer tight with expectation, no longer heavy with meaning-making, but open. And openness is what allows love to breathe. Acceptance also requires releasing judgment, not just of the other person but of yourself. Many people judge themselves harshly on this journey. They say, "I should be further along. I shouldn't still feel this. I should be healed by now." But healing is not linear, and love does not obey timelines. Acceptance includes compassion for your own process. It allows grief without self-attack. It allows longing without self-shame. It allows uncertainty without panic. This is how acceptance becomes stabilizing. It does not erase emotion. It holds it. Another misunderstanding of acceptance is the belief that it requires silence. That if you accept something, you must stop expressing pain or truth. But true acceptance does not suppress expression. It refines it. You stop trying to convince. You stop pleading. You stop performing emotion to get a response. Instead, you express from honesty, not from demand. This is a profound shift, because your words no longer carry the weight of expectation. They are simply true. And truth spoken without agenda is liberating. Acceptance also means releasing the need to define the connection, to label it, to explain it, to fit it into a framework that makes sense to others or even to yourself. Sometimes the twin flame connection remains undefined, unresolved, incomplete in form, and acceptance allows that incompleteness to exist without torment. This is where many people experience a deep inner peace. Not because everything is resolved, but because they no longer need resolution to feel whole. They stop asking, "What does this mean?" and start living, "What is alive in me now?" This is the turning point where love becomes inwardly anchored. You stop leaning on the connection for identity. You stop orienting your life around waiting. You stop measuring progress through signs and synchronicities. You begin to live again, not away from love, but with love integrated into your being. And here is the paradox. Acceptance does not end desire, purifies it. Desire no longer comes from lack, comes from resonance. You may still want connection. You may still feel drawn, but the wanting no longer hurts, because it is no longer a demand. It is simply energy. An energy that is not resisted flows naturally. This is why acceptance often precedes inner union, because inner union requires coherence, and coherence cannot exist in resistance. When you accept reality as it is, your energy aligns. You are no longer split between what is and what should be. You are whole in the present moment, and wholeness is union, not with another person but with yourself. This does not mean the external connection is over. It means it is no longer required for your stability. And this is the deepest form of freedom. Freedom to love without attachment. Freedom to feel without fear. Freedom to exist without needing reality to confirm your worth. In the next section, we will arrive at the central question of this entire journey. Can you love without expecting anything in return? Not as a moral ideal, but as a lived state of being. Because the answer to that question determines whether union remains a future fantasy or becomes an inner reality. There is a moment on the twin flame journey when everything becomes very quiet. Not because the pain has disappeared, not because all the questions have been answered, but because you arrive at a question that cannot be avoided any longer. A question that doesn't ask for analysis. A question that doesn't offer strategies. A question that cannot be solved with effort. Simply ask, can you love without expecting anything in return? First, this question feels unrealistic, even unfair, because human love has always been shaped by exchange. We love and hope to be loved back. We give and hope to receive. We open and hope to be met. This is not wrong. It is human. But the twin flame journey is not here to perfect human love. It is here to expand it. And expansion always stretches us beyond what feels comfortable. When you hear the idea of loving without expectation, the mind immediately protests. If I expect nothing, I will be used. If I give without receiving, I will be depleted. If I love without outcome, what is the point? These are valid fears. Because expectation has often been the mechanism through which love felt safe. Expectation provided structure. Expectation provided reassurance. Expectation provided a sense of balance. But expectation is not the same as connection. Expectation is a future-oriented demand. It says, I will love now as long as something happens later. And this is where love becomes conditional. Not consciously, but energetically. The twin flame connection exposes this conditioning ruthlessly. Because expectations cannot survive in a connection that refuses to be controlled. This is why the connection feels so destabilizing. It removes the familiar rules. No clear roles. No predictable outcomes. No guaranteed reciprocity. And in that absence, expectation becomes visible. Not as hope but as pressure. You may not realize how much pressure expectation carries until it dissolves. Expectation asks, when will this change? When will they choose me? When will love be returned in form? And each unanswered question tightens the heart, until loving feels like waiting, and waiting feels like suffering. This is where the rhetorical question becomes unavoidable. Can you love without waiting? Can you love without monitoring outcomes? Can you love without tying your emotional safety to another person's response? This is not a question of morality. It is a question of capacity. Because loving without expectation does not mean loving without discernment. It means loving without attachment to result. This distinction is subtle but essential. Expectation is attachment to outcome. Love without expectation is attachment to truth. Truth says, this is how I feel. This is what is alive in me. This is what I can offer. Without asking reality to rearrange itself in exchange. At this stage of the journey, many people fear they are being asked to erase themselves, to accept unbalanced love, to give endlessly without return. But that is not what this question is asking. It is not asking you to tolerate harm. It is not asking you to stay in situations that violate your integrity. It is asking something far deeper. Can you allow love to exist as love, not as a contract? Because contracts require enforcement. And love enforced ceases to be love. The moment you expect love to prove itself, love becomes conditional. And conditional love is fragile. It collapses under uncertainty. Unconditional love does not. Because unconditional love is not dependent on being chosen. It is anchored in being true. This does not mean you stop desiring connection. Desire does not disappear, but it becomes clean. It no longer hides demands. It no longer waits for fulfillment to justify itself. Simply is. This is where many people encounter grief. Because they realize how much of their love was fueled by expectation. Expectation of healing. Expectation of reunion. Expectation of validation. And releasing expectation feels like losing hope. But what you are actually losing is illusion. Illusion that love must return in the same form to be real. Illusion that love must be visible to be valid. Illusion that love must lead somewhere. Love does not need to lead anywhere. It is already complete in its expression. This realization is both liberating and disorienting. Because it shifts love from being a means to being a state. You stop loving for something. You love from something. From alignment. From authenticity. From presence. And presence does not wait. Presence does not bargain. Presence simply exists. This is where inner union deepens. Because you are no longer divided between giving and hoping, between loving and fearing loss, between opening and protecting yourself. You are simply open. An openness without expectation is peace. Not excitement. Not intensity. But peace. A steady, grounded sense of emotional sovereignty. You are no longer asking love to complete you. You are allowing love to flow through you. This does not mean the connection disappears. It may remain. It may transform. It may shift form. But it is no longer the source of your stability. And this is the greatest gift of the twin flame journey. Not reunion, but freedom. Freedom from needing love to behave a certain way. Freedom from measuring worth through response. Freedom from tying your heart to outcomes beyond your control. This is where the rhetorical question becomes lived reality. You don't answer it with words. You answer it with your nervous system, with how you breathe when nothing happens, with how you remain open when no reassurance arrives, with how you continue living when love does not resolve itself. And in that living, something extraordinary happens. You realize that love never left you. It was never in the other person. It was always moving through you. And now, without expectation, it is finally free. In the next section, we will ground this realization in real-life experience, showing how letting go of expectation changes emotional dynamics, inner stability, and even external outcomes in ways the ego could never predict. Because unconditional love is not an abstract ideal. It is a lived transformation. There is a point on the twin flame journey where understanding stops being enough. You may intellectually grasp the ideas, letting go, giving without losing yourself, accepting what is, loving without expectation. But none of these teachings become real until they are embodied, until they show up in how you breathe, how you respond, how you live your ordinary days. This is where theory becomes experience, and experience changes everything. In real life, unconditional love does not arrive as a dramatic spiritual breakthrough. It arrives quietly, almost unnoticed at first. You wake up one morning and realize you didn't check your phone. Or you did, but without the tightness in your chest. You notice that the thought of them still appears, but it no longer hijacks your nervous system. You still care, but you are no longer collapsing around the care. This is how inner union begins to show itself. Not through fireworks, but through regulation. Your body begins to feel safe again. This is an important detail that many people overlook. Healing on the twin flame journey is not primarily emotional. It is neurological. Your nervous system has been in a state of hypervigilance, waiting, scanning, interpreting silence as danger. When expectation dissolves, the nervous system relaxes. And when the body feels safe, clarity emerges naturally. This is why people often report sudden shifts in behavior, not because they force change, but because tension is no longer driving their actions. You stop reaching out impulsively. You stop replaying conversations obsessively. You stop interpreting neutral events as signs, not because you are trying to be detached, but because there is nothing to manage anymore. Love is no longer tied to outcome. This internal shift has visible external effects. People around you begin to notice. They may say, "You seem calmer. You seem more present. You're different lately." But they don't know why. And often neither do you. Because the change didn't come from effort. Came from release. This is where real-life examples become important. Imagine someone who used to wait every day for a message. Their mood rose and fell with response time. Their self-worth fluctuated with attention. After acceptance and letting go, they still notice the absence, but it no longer defines the day. They fill their time naturally. Not to distract themselves, but because energy that was tied up in waiting is now available for life. They start moving again. Creativity returns. Focus returns. Joy, subtle but real, returns. This is unconditional love in action. Not dramatic devotion, but quiet self-respect. Another example. Someone who used to overgive. Always understanding. Always available. Always minimizing their needs to keep the connection alive. When unconditional love becomes embodied, something changes. They stop over-explaining. They stop justifying. They stop chasing clarity from someone who cannot offer it. They still love, but they do not perform love anymore. And this shift is palpable. Not confrontational. Not defensive. But firm. This firmness is not armor. It is alignment. And alignment changes how others respond. Sometimes the twin flame notices. Sometimes they don't. But the dynamic has changed regardless. Because one person is no longer holding the entire emotional field. This is how inner union affects outer dynamics, without manipulation. Another real-life shift happens in how you experience longing. Before, longing felt like pain, like something missing, like a gap that needed to be filled. After expectation dissolves, longing becomes spacious. It is felt but not urgent. present but not demanding. You can feel love without acting on it. You can feel connection without chasing it. This is emotional maturity, and it is rare. Because most people are taught that feeling requires action. That desire must be pursued. That love must be proven. But unconditional love allows feeling to exist without compulsion. This is why life begins to feel more balanced. You are no longer driven by emotional extremes. Your days regain rhythm. Sleep improves. Decision-making becomes clearer. You stop second-guessing yourself. Not because everything is resolved, but because you trust yourself again. This trust is crucial, because one of the deepest wounds the twin flame journey exposes is self-distrust. The belief that your feelings are too much, that your needs are wrong, that your intuition cannot be trusted. When inner union stabilizes, self-trust returns. You no longer ask others to confirm your experience. You know what you feel. You know what you can offer. And you know what you will no longer accept. This clarity affects all relationships, not just the twin flame. Friendships shift. Some deepen. Some fade. Not because you are withdrawing, but because you are no longer overextending. You show up honestly, and honesty filters connections naturally. This is how unconditional love becomes practical. It is not about grand gestures. It is about congruence. You act in alignment with your inner state. And alignment is magnetic. This is also where something unexpected can happen. Without trying to attract anything, synchronicities increase. Not because you are manifesting, but because your energy is coherent. You are no longer fragmented between hope and fear. You are whole, and wholeness resonates. Sometimes this leads to renewed contact. Sometimes it doesn't, but when it does, the interaction is different. No tension, no emotional bargaining, no urgency, just presence. And if reconnection does not happen, there is still peace. Not resignation, but acceptance rooted in self-respect. This is the lived expression of unconditional love. You are no longer waiting for life to begin. You are living with love integrated. This is why inner union often precedes external change. Because inner union removes resistance. And where resistance ends, flow begins. In the next section, we will explore the culmination of this journey. How inner union naturally forms when love is no longer conditional, and why external union is no longer the goal, but a possibility that may or may not arise. Because the deepest union was never meant to happen outside of you. It was meant to happen within. One of the most mysterious and compelling aspects of the twin flame journey is the experience of synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that seem too precise, too emotionally charged, and too repetitive to be random. These events often occur at pivotal moments, appearing as signs, symbols, numbers, dreams, or encounters that mirror the inner state of the individuals involved. For many on the twin flame path, synchronicities are not merely interesting phenomena. They are deeply personal confirmations that something profound is unfolding beneath the surface of ordinary life. Synchronicities tend to intensify after the initial twin flame meeting, especially during periods of separation, emotional upheaval, or inner awakening. They function like subtle messages from the subconscious, or depending on one's belief system, from the universe itself, guiding, challenging, and sometimes unsettling those who experience them. While they can feel magical and reassuring, synchronicities also carry a deeper purpose that goes far beyond romantic validation. At their core, synchronicities on the twin flame journey are reflections of inner alignment. When two individuals share a deep energetic bond, their internal worlds become mirrors of each other. As inner shifts occur, whether through healing, resistance, or growth, external reality often responds by presenting patterns that echo these changes. This is why synchronicities are rarely static. They evolve as the individuals evolve. One of the most common forms of synchronicity is the appearance of repeating numbers. Sequences such as 1111, 222, 333, or 444 are frequently reported by those on the twin flame path. While these numbers are often interpreted symbolically, their true significance lies in timing rather than definition. They tend to appear when someone is deeply immersed in thoughts of their twin flame, questioning the journey, or standing at a crossroads of emotional decision-making. In these moments, the repetition serves as a pause, a moment of heightened awareness that draws attention inward. Names and symbols are another powerful category of synchronicity. People often encounter their twin flame's name unexpectedly, on signs, in books, through strangers, or in media, especially during times of emotional distance or silence. Similarly, shared symbols such as specific songs, animals, places, or phrases may repeatedly surface, creating an uncanny sense of continuity between inner experience and outer reality. These moments can feel comforting, but they can also trigger longing, confusion, or emotional regression if not understood correctly. Dreams play a particularly significant role in twin flame synchronicities. Many individuals report vivid, emotionally intense dreams involving their twin flame, even during long periods of physical separation or no contact. These dreams often feel more real than ordinary dreams, carrying emotional weight, clarity, or symbolic messages that linger long after waking. In some cases, both individuals report similar or complementary dreams around the same time, reinforcing the sense of a shared inner space. However, it is crucial to understand that synchronicities are not meant to be interpreted as instructions to pursue, chase, or force reunion. This is one of the most common misunderstandings on the twin flame journey. When synchronicities are used to justify obsessive behavior or emotional dependency, they lose their true purpose and instead become tools of avoidance. Rather than guiding growth, they reinforce attachment and fear. True synchronicities do not pull energy outward, they redirect it inward. They invite reflection rather than action, awareness rather than reaction. When interpreted correctly, they ask questions instead of providing answers. Why does this symbol affect me so deeply? What emotion is being triggered right now? What part of me is seeking reassurance instead of self-trust? Repeating emotional patterns are another form of synchronicity, though they are often less romanticized and more challenging to confront. Many twin flame connections involve cycles of attraction and withdrawal, closeness and distance, hope and disappointment. These patterns often repeat across different relationships as well, not just within the twin flame dynamic. This repetition is not a punishment. It is a lesson seeking integration. For example, someone who repeatedly experiences abandonment, whether through emotional unavailability, sudden distancing, or inconsistent communication, is being invited to explore unresolved wounds related to self-worth, boundaries, or early attachment. The twin flame connection amplifies these patterns because it operates at a deeper emotional and energetic level. What might be tolerable or unconscious in other relationships becomes impossible to ignore here. Synchronicities often appear precisely when these patterns are ready to be seen. A person might notice that every time they release control, external signs intensify, or that moments of emotional clarity coincide with a sudden silence from their twin flame. These correlations are not coincidences. They are reflections of inner states interacting with shared energetic dynamics. Another important aspect of synchronicities is timing. Twin flame connections often unfold in ways that defy conventional logic. Meetings occur during transitional life phases, career changes, emotional breakdowns, spiritual awakenings. Reunions may happen just as one person begins to move on, while separations often occur when attachment becomes strongest. This timing is not cruel or random. It serves to disrupt unconscious patterns and force growth. Yet, timing is also one of the greatest sources of suffering on the twin flame journey. The mind seeks certainty, reassurance, and outcomes. Synchronicities can temporarily satisfy this need, but they cannot replace inner work. When timing becomes an obsession, constantly looking for signs to predict reunion, the journey shifts from transformation to waiting. This is where many people become stuck. The deeper purpose of synchronicities is to cultivate presence and self-awareness. They act as mirrors, showing how internal states shape perception and experience. When someone is grounded, emotionally regulated, and self-connected, synchronicities feel gentle and affirming. When someone is anxious, fearful, or attached, the same signs can feel overwhelming, confusing, or even painful. It is also important to acknowledge that not every coincidence is a message. The human mind is exceptionally skilled at pattern recognition, especially when emotionally invested. Discernment is essential. True synchronicities carry emotional resonance without urgency. They do not demand action or create pressure. Instead, they offer a quiet sense of alignment, even if the circumstances remain challenging. Ultimately, synchronicities on the twin flame journey are not about proving the connection is real. The connection's reality is not something that needs external validation. Instead, these signs exist to guide individuals back to themselves, to their healing, their authenticity, and their inner balance. When synchronicities are honored as reflections rather than directions, they become powerful allies. They illuminate unconscious patterns, support emotional integration, and remind individuals that growth is unfolding even when outcomes are uncertain. When misused, they become distractions that delay healing and reinforce dependency. The invitation of synchronicities is subtle but profound. Stop searching for answers outside, and begin listening within. The more integrated and whole each individual becomes, the less they need signs to feel secure, and paradoxically, the more effortlessly alignment unfolds. In this way, synchronicities are not the destination of the twin flame journey. They are signposts along the path, pointing not toward another person, but toward deeper self-awareness, emotional maturity, and inner freedom. After the intensity, the cycles, the longing, the separation, and the repeated lessons, there comes a moment of quiet revelation on the twin flame journey. A moment when the search for connection outside dissolves into a deeper recognition within. This is the culmination of the path. Inner union. It is the state in which the lessons of letting go, giving without losing yourself, accepting what is, and loving without expectation converge, and you realize that the true union has always existed inside you. Many people begin the twin flame journey believing that union is a romantic or physical event. They imagine that a reunion with their twin flame will finally bring wholeness, relief, and fulfillment. This expectation drives much of the emotional turbulence along the way. But the journey, at its deepest level, is not about creating union in the external world. It is about cultivating it internally. Inner union is the harmony between the parts of yourself that were once fragmented. It is the integration of your fears, your wounds, your desires, and your love into a coherent, whole self. It is the realization that you do not need another person to complete you, because completion was never located outside, it was always within. The twin flame appears not to fill gaps, but to illuminate them, showing you where inner work is required and where love can expand. This state of inner union is not passive. It does not mean detachment from life or from the twin flame connection. On the contrary, it allows you to engage fully with the world and relationships from a place of wholeness rather than lack. You are no longer seeking validation, reassurance, or energy from external sources, because your energy is anchored in self-awareness and self-love. This is the profound transformation that the twin flame journey facilitates. The process of reaching inner union involves embodying the lessons of previous stages. Letting go allows your heart to move freely without grasping or controlling. Giving without losing yourself ensures that your love is authentic and sustainable. Acceptance allows you to experience reality fully without resistance. Loving without expectation frees your energy from attachment, allowing love to flow naturally without needing confirmation. Recognizing synchronicities teaches you to read life signs with discernment, noticing patterns without becoming entangled in them. Once these elements are integrated, something remarkable occurs. The energy of your being stabilizes. Emotional swings quiet, and inner peace replaces anxiety. You no longer react automatically to the twin flame's actions or the circumstances of the connection. You respond consciously, guided by intuition and alignment rather than fear or longing. Your heart remains open regardless of whether contact occurs or distance persists. This is not resignation, it is sovereignty. An important aspect of inner union is that it transforms your relationship to desire. Desire does not disappear. It is no longer urgent, needy, or frantic. Instead, desire becomes an expression of vitality, a recognition of what brings joy and resonance into your life. You may still wish for closeness, intimacy, or partnership with your twin flame, but this longing does not dictate your emotional stability. It is energy flowing naturally, like a river that moves without forcing its course. Another significant feature of inner union is clarity in boundaries and presence. The twin flame journey exposes the areas where you previously compromised yourself for love. When you achieve inner union, you honor both your own boundaries and those of your twin flame. You can love deeply while also respecting what is needed for each person's growth. This clarity creates interactions that are freer, lighter, and more authentic. You are no longer caught in cycles of pursuit and retreat, confusion and intensity, or emotional manipulation, whether conscious or unconscious. Synchronicities take on a new meaning at this stage. They are no longer crutches to validate the connection or indicators that reunion must happen. Instead, they become gentle confirmations that alignment exists within you. Numbers, signs, dreams, and encounters continue to appear, but they are experienced with calm curiosity rather than urgent interpretation. You learn to witness them as reflections of inner coherence rather than as instructions or obligations. Inner union also brings a shift in energy that affects all relationships, not just the twin flame connection. You begin to attract experiences and people who resonate with your authentic self. You interact from presence, not projection. Patterns that previously repeated due to unresolved wounds start to dissolve because you no longer unconsciously reproduce them. Emotional maturity and energetic stability create a field in which healthier dynamics naturally emerge. At this stage, many individuals report profound shifts in perception. You see the twin flame and the connection differently, not as an object to achieve or a story to complete, but as a mirror, a catalyst, and a source of inspiration. The intensity of longing softens into appreciation. The challenges of separation transform into opportunities for self-discovery. The push and pull dynamics lose their power over your emotional state. You experience a sense of freedom that was not possible when your energy was tied to outcomes or expectations. A key aspect of inner union is compassion for yourself and your twin flame. You recognize the humanity, imperfection, and spiritual unfolding of both yourself and the other person. You forgive not because of obligation, but because resentment is unnecessary and binding. This compassion dissolves judgment and allows love to flow without conditions or attachments. It is not passive acceptance of harm, but a conscious choice to hold love in its most expansive form. It is also essential to understand that inner union does not guarantee external reunion. Physical proximity or romantic partnership may or may not manifest, and this is not a measure of the journey's success. The true goal has always been alignment of self and heart. The twin flame relationship is ultimately a mirror for your inner state, and once inner union is achieved, the connection can exist in harmony regardless of distance, form, or circumstance. Whether together or apart, both individuals operate from wholeness rather than lack. The practical implications of inner union are profound. Life becomes less reactive and more intentional. Decisions are made from clarity rather than anxiety. Emotional experiences are processed in the present rather than replayed in loops of longing or regret. Creativity, joy, and authenticity emerge naturally. You live with an open heart that is no longer hostage to uncertainty or expectation. Finally, inner union allows you to fully embody unconditional love. You have learned to give freely without losing yourself, to accept reality without resistance, to love without expecting reciprocity, and to read synchronicities without obsession. Love becomes a state of being rather than a transactional or conditional experience. You recognize that the essence of the twin flame journey is not external reunion, but the integration of love within yourself. This integration is the foundation for all meaningful relationships and the deepest source of inner peace. In closing, the twin flame journey is a path of profound transformation. It teaches lessons of surrender, self-respect, presence, and unconditional love. It challenges attachment, exposes patterns, and amplifies growth. And when the journey culminates in inner union, you understand that the connection was never about possession or completion through another person. It was about discovering the capacity to love wholly, authentically, and freely, beginning with yourself. If this resonates with you, start your journey inward today. Reflect on the lessons of letting go, giving without losing yourself, acceptance, loving without expectation, and recognizing synchronicities. Journal, meditate, and breathe with intention. Begin cultivating inner union, and you will find that love, in its most profound and liberating form, has always been within you.